In different years, in different states, these stories looked almost identical. A few seconds of video, a simple task, and the promise of views, likes, and attention. These challenges were not created by criminals and did not require complex training. They were spread by algorithms, appeared in the feeds of children and teenagers, and looked like a harmless game. This video shows 7 cases where viral trends on social media ended in death. Ordinary people, ordinary rooms, yards and schools, and decisions that turned out to be irreversible. In the spring of 2021, 12-year-old Ethan Miller lived with his parents in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, in a neighborhood that looked like hundreds of others. 2-story houses, manicured lawns, identical driveways, and a school bus that stopped at the street corner every morning. Ethan was in the 7th grade at a local public school, had no disciplinary record, and was not under the supervision of psychologists or social services, and his teachers described him as a quiet, attentive student with no obvious learning disabilities. His parents worked full-time, and like most families in the neighborhood, considered their home a safe place for their child. After school, Ethan often stayed home alone for several hours, doing his homework, playing video games, or watching videos on his phone. TikTok was his main platform, an endless feed of short videos that changed automatically without the need to search or select anything, and the algorithm quickly formed a selection of content featuring teenagers his age, challenges, reactions, experiments filmed in bedrooms, bathrooms, and backyards. Among them, there were more and more videos with the so-called blackout challenge, in which participants explained that they only needed to restrict their breathing for a short time to feel dizzy or lose consciousness briefly, after which everything returns to normal. Most of the videos did not contain warnings or demonstrate consequences. On the day of the tragedy, Ethan came home from school earlier than usual. His parents said they would be working late, and he had to spend a few hours alone, which was not unusual. This situation had happened many times. He went into his room, closed the door, and put his phone on the shelf opposite the bed, the camera recording the usual interior of a teenage bedroom, posters on the walls, a stack of notebooks on the table, and a school backpack by the door. The recording was turned on without commentary or explanation, just like most of the videos he had seen before. Ethan repeated actions that seemed simple and tested by dozens of other users, without using any foreign objects, and without realizing that even short-term oxygen deprivation can lead to loss of body control and irreversible changes. After a few seconds, his movements became slow and then stopped completely. The phone continued to record a still image for several more minutes until the battery started to run out. When the parents returned home, they found their son unconscious in his room. An ambulance arrived promptly, but doctors only recorded his death. The investigation revealed no foul play or violence, and the cause of death was called acute oxygen deprivation. The video for which Ethan turned on the camera was never published and remained the only record of how a viral social media trend ended in an irreversible decision in an ordinary American home. In the fall of 2020, 15-year-old Madison Carter lived with her mother and younger brother in the eastern part of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a small house in a typical middle-class neighborhood. She attended the local public school, had no serious learning disabilities, and was not under the supervision of school psychologists. Her teachers described her as a quiet student who rarely drew attention to herself. Madison usually returned home after school because her mother worked in shifts and spent most of her time in her room with her phone. Social media was a familiar background to her everyday life. TikTok worked continuously, offering videos that did not require searching or choosing, and the algorithm customized the feed to her age and preferences, combining dancing, everyday jokes, and so-called experiments. It was among this kind of content that Madison began to regularly see videos from the Benadryl challenge, a trend in which teens took high doses of the over-the-counter antihistamine, describing hallucinations and altered states of consciousness as something fun and controlled. Most of the videos made no mention of the risks, and the commentary often encouraged repetition of the experience, presenting it as a harmless game. Madison treated these videos the same way as any other trend, not separating the medication from the usual props for the content. The drug was in her home medicine cabinet, and its presence did not seem dangerous. On the day of the tragedy, she stayed home from school, feeling tired and bored. Her mother was at work, and her brother was at a neighbor's house. In her room, Madison turned on her phone and positioned it so that the camera captured her face and upper body, as the other participants in the challenge did. She did not read the instructions and did not know the difference between a permissible and a toxic dose. Having taken a much larger number of pills than recommended, Madison was expecting the effect described in other videos, but instead of the expected visual distortions, her condition began to change rapidly. She became severely disoriented, had a rapid heartbeat, and had trouble breathing. The recording was not completed, and the phone continued to work, recording fragments of what happened next. When the mother returned home, she found her daughter in serious condition and called an ambulance. Madison was taken to the hospital, where doctors tried to stabilize her condition, but her body could not withstand the drug load, and her heart stopped due to acute intoxication. The death was classified as accidental due to an overdose of an over-the-counter drug, and the video that started it all never appeared online. The Benadryl challenge for the Madison family ceased to be an internet trend, becoming a fatal episode in an ordinary American home. At the beginning of 2021, 17-year-old Jordan Reyes was a senior at a high school in Riverside County, California, a neighborhood with typical Southern-style housing and large school campuses. He lived with his parents and younger sister, attended classes without serious disciplinary problems, and was preparing for his senior year. Jordan was not considered an outsider or a problem student. He had a circle of friends and kept in touch with his classmates mainly through social media, and for him, like many teenagers, TikTok was not only entertainment, but also a way to stay part of the school environment outside of class. During this period, the Skullbreaker Challenge, a challenge that was presented as a joke between friends, was actively spreading among American schools. Its essence was that two people simultaneously cut the legs of a third person while jumping, filming the moment of the fall. Most of the videos did not show serious consequences, and the falls looked short and controlled. The videos were often accompanied by laughter and comments, which created the illusion of safe entertainment, and social media algorithms actively distributed such content among teenagers, not separating it from other popular school trends. On the day of the tragedy, Jordan was on the school grounds during a break between classes. Together with several classmates, he agreed to take part in the filming of a short video, not expecting any real danger. The situation did not seem threatening. There were other students nearby, an open courtyard, and familiar surroundings. When Jordan jumped up, two of the participants abruptly kicked his legs out, as they had done in dozens of videos before. But this time he lost control in mid-air and fell flat on the back of his head on the hard concrete pavement, unable to regroup or protect his head. The fall looked sharper than those present had expected, but was initially taken as part of a joke. It was only a few seconds later that it became clear Jordan was not moving or responding to voices. The school staff called an ambulance, and the teenager was rushed to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed a severe head injury with internal hemorrhage. Despite the efforts of the doctors, the injuries were incompatible with life, and Jordan died a few hours later. The police and school administration treated the incident as an accident related to a dangerous internet trend. The video that led to it was shared only among a limited number of students and quickly deleted. But for Jordan's family, the Skullbreaker Challenge was no longer just another online game. It became a moment when a few seconds for the camera turned into a final decision in an ordinary schoolyard in an American suburb. In the summer of 2019, 20-year-old Lucas Bennett lived in Jacksonville, Florida, in his parents' house in a typical residential neighborhood near the coast. After graduating from high school, he was undecided about his future plans, periodically changing temporary jobs and spending more and more time on social media. Lucas closely watched popular videos, analyzed the number of views, and tried to replicate formats that he thought could quickly gain attention. For him, TikTok was not just entertainment, but a potential opportunity to escape from his routine life and gain recognition without much preparation. It was during this period that videos from the Fire Challenge, a trend in which participants set themselves on fire for a few seconds, demonstrating allegedly complete control over the situation and rapidly extinguishing the flames, began to appear in the feed more and more often. Most of the videos were filmed in such a way that the danger looked minimal. A short flash, quick reaction, laughter or satisfied comments afterwards, serious burns or unsuccessful attempts were almost never included in the recommendations, creating the illusion that the risk was exaggerated. Lucas took these videos as proof that everything can be controlled with care. On the day of the tragedy, he was alone at home, his parents were at work, and his neighbors were going about their business. Lucas prepared to shoot in the yard of his house, set up his phone on a tripod, and made sure the camera clearly captured his height. He planned a quick video without editing, hoping that the effect of surprise would bring in views. In his mind, it was supposed to last only a few seconds and end just like the dozens of videos he had seen before. When the flames broke out, the situation got out of control almost instantly. The fire spread through his clothes much faster than Lucas expected, engulfing his upper body and face. Attempts to extinguish the flames proved chaotic and ineffective. Panic made movements uneven, and precious seconds were lost. Smoke and screams attracted the attention of neighbors who called the emergency services. Lucas was taken to the hospital with severe thermal burns and respiratory damage. For several days, doctors fought for his life, but the damage was too serious. His body could not withstand the complications caused by the burns, and he died without regaining consciousness. The video for which he took the risk was never published, and the Fire Challenge, which looked like a controlled stunt in the film, ended in death in an ordinary American backyard, becoming another example of how a few seconds for a camera can have irreversible consequences. In the late summer of 2021, 14-year-old Tyler Brooks lived with his parents in the northern part of Las Vegas, Nevada, in a newly developed neighborhood with identical houses lining the wide streets. Due to the intense heat, he spent most of his vacation at home, rarely going outside during the day, and spent a lot of time in his room with his phone. Tyler had no problems at school and was not under the supervision of social services. To his parents, he looked like a normal teenager who was bored during the summer vacation. Social media became his main way to fill his time, and TikTok worked almost without interruption, automatically selecting content based on age and preferences. At the time, the platform was flooded with videos from the Frozen Honey Challenge, a trend in which users ate frozen honey, demonstrating its unusual viscous texture and body reaction. In most of the videos, the challenge looked completely safe and even childlike. Participants laughed, tried to take a bite, and joked about the strange sensation in their mouths. Such videos usually did not contain any risk warnings, and the comments under them gave the impression that this was one of the most harmless trends on the platform. Tyler had seen dozens of such videos and did not perceive them as dangerous or prohibited. A few days before the tragedy, he put a plastic bottle of honey in the freezer, planning to shoot his own video. And in the evening, when his parents were in another part of the house and did not pay attention to what he was doing, Tyler took out the frozen honey and set the phone so that the camera captured his face and hands. The recording began without commentary, in the usual format for the platform, and the video showed him trying to take a large bite of the thick, almost stone-like mass, imitating the other participants in the challenge. A few seconds later, the situation changed dramatically. A too large piece of frozen honey blocked his airway, and Tyler began to choke. His movements became jerky, and his attempts to breathe in were unsuccessful. Due to the dense consistency, he was unable to quickly get rid of the obstruction and was unable to call for help. The recording continued, capturing only sporadic movements until the phone fell to the floor. When his parents came into the room, Tyler was already unconscious. An ambulance was called immediately, but despite the prompt arrival of medics, resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful. The cause of death was asphyxiation. The video for which he turned on the camera never appeared on social media, and the frozen honey challenge, which looked like a safe experiment for teenagers, ended in death in an ordinary room of an American home, becoming another example of how a trend without a visible threat can have fatal consequences. In the fall of 2022, 19-year-old Aaron Collins was a freshman at a small college near Jackson, Mississippi. He had just moved out of his parents' house, was sharing an apartment with two fellow students, and was gradually getting used to living on his own. Studying didn't seem too difficult, and Aaron often spent his free time on social media, where he posted short videos of his everyday life, not expecting to be very popular. TikTok was a way for him to fill in the pauses between dates and stay in the context of what his peers were discussing. It was during this period that videos of the NyQuil chicken challenge, an ironic culinary trend that was presented as an absurd joke, began to appear on the feed. In these videos, users cooked chicken in cold syrup, commenting on the process with humor and emphasizing the seeming ridiculousness of the idea. Most of the videos did not show the moment of eating the dish or any negative consequences, giving the impression that it was just a strange way of cooking. There were no warnings about the dangers of drugs in these videos, or they were lost among the jokes. Aaron saw this trend as another example of internet irony. He was not interested in the composition of the drug and did not think about the fact that heating medicines can change their properties. In the evening, when he was alone in the apartment, he decided to repeat what he had seen, setting the phone on the kitchen counter, the camera capturing the usual student housing environment, a minimum of dishes, food packaging, and a stove with a frying pan. And the recording began without explanation, in a format familiar to the platform. During the cooking, Aaron inhaled the vapors of the heated syrup without experiencing any immediate discomfort, and after the filming, he tasted the dish, believing that the main part of the challenge was over. In the first hours afterwards, his condition did not raise any serious concerns, and he did not seek medical attention. But over the next few days, his health deteriorated sharply, with severe fatigue, nausea, abdominal pain, and disorientation. His roommates noticed that Aaron hardly got out of bed and called an ambulance. In the hospital, doctors diagnosed acute toxic liver damage caused by the effects of drugs. The condition progressed rapidly, and despite intensive treatment, the body was unable to recover. A few days later, Aaron died. His death was classified as a result of drug poisoning. The video for which he turned on the camera was never published, and the NyQuil chicken challenge remained not an ironic joke, but the final event in the life of a student who did not perceive the internet trend as a real threat. In the spring of 2021, 14-year-old Emily Walker lived with her parents and older sister in a suburb of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a quiet neighborhood with private homes and short streets without heavy traffic. She was a junior in high school, had no serious learning disabilities, and was considered a quiet student. After school, Emily usually spent her time at home in her room, watching videos, chatting with friends, and trying to replicate popular social media formats. Her parents considered her old enough not to control her every move and did not pay much attention to what she was watching online. TikTok was Emily's main platform for entertainment, and the algorithm quickly adjusted the feed to her age and behavior, offering content with simple tasks that looked like harmless games or tests of courage. That's how she first saw the blackout challenge, a trend in which teenagers deliberately restricted their breathing for a short time to cause dizziness or fainting, filming the process. In most videos, everything ended with laughter and comments about the controlled effect, and the dangerous consequences were left out of the picture, with comments under the videos often convincing that nothing serious would happen if you didn't overdo it. Emily perceived what she saw as another popular trend, not realizing the physiological risks. On the day of the tragedy, she came home from school earlier than usual. Her parents were at work, and her sister was late for extracurricular activities. In her room, Emily set her phone on the shelf, turned on the recording, and closed the door. The situation was familiar and did not cause a sense of danger. A bed, a desk, clothes on a chair, and the silence of the house. The video started without explanation, and Emily tried to repeat the actions she had seen in other videos, hoping to be able to stop at any time, but she lost control faster than she expected. Due to the sharp oxygen deprivation, she lost consciousness and fell. Hitting the floor, the phone continued to record a still image of the room until the video cut off. When her mother returned home, Emily was unresponsive and showed no signs of consciousness, and an ambulance was called immediately. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed severe brain damage caused by a prolonged lack of oxygen. Despite all attempts to stabilize her condition, recovery was impossible, and Emily died a few hours later. The death was classified as an accident related to participation in an online challenge. The video she shot was never published and remained only a file in the phone's memory. The Blackout Challenge, which looked like a short and controlled game for teenagers, ended in death in an ordinary room in an American suburb, becoming the final consequence of a decision made in a few seconds in front of the camera. In each of these cases, there was no malicious intent, no complicated plan, or conscious desire to risk life. There were only trends that seemed to be a normal part of online culture and decisions made in a few seconds in familiar rooms, yards, and kitchens. Social media rarely shows the consequences, turning dangerous actions into easy formats for viewing. All of these deaths occurred in places where people felt safe, and the videos that started it all never became success stories, remaining a silent testament to the ultimate cost of viral trends.